And so many people whose minds are so busy, they are not able to relax. Yoga saved me. If there is one day in my life that I don't do any yoga, I feel my back, I feel pain. Asanas is 1/8 of the class. The major part can reduce the intermittence of our mind to go to highest consciousness, to reach the nirvana. But to go there and to see, you need the asanas. The less you move, more energy you are bringing to your head. In each hand, we have 35 chakras. So when we are doing mantras, we are actually activating those chakras. We can definitely help to reduce the symptoms of menopause immensely. Sleep, anxiety, forgetfulness. Through yoga, we can definitely support a lot.
Hello and welcome to Portraits. My name is Paula MacNeill, and this is a podcast that explores all the aspects and layers of today's global society. We are going to dive deep in one's personal story about a big change, whether it's moving countries or blending cultures or just changing life's trajectory in a meaningful and fulfilling way. And so today in the studio, we have someone I know pretty well. She's a Swastika yoga teacher, Theta healer, and fashion entrepreneur, Tatiana Sunada. Hello.
Hi, Paula.
We know each other already for probably a few years. And right after I gave birth to my second child, I remember that you, I think, were the first person that kind of got me emotionally and physically back into shape. So thank you for that, I want to say.
I appreciate, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
If I would have to ask you, what do you associate the most? Are you a yoga teacher? Are you a Theta healer? Are you entrepreneur? Where is your heart the most?
Oh, this is a tough question. Well, I would say I would define myself as a yoga teacher. What I am passionate for. Mm-hmm. Everything came out of yoga. Although my background, I studied different things. Mm-hmm. But yes, for a couple of years now, I'm a yoga teacher.
Okay, we'll talk about yoga later and all the things that you're doing right now. But I wanted to ask you about your sort of backstory. And I remember you briefly mentioned in one of the sessions that we had that you are half Brazilian, half Japanese. You grew up in Brazil. And for me, where I'm from, I feel like Brazil and Japan are like two completely different worlds, both geographically, culturally. So how was it to live in a household? Did it play any role that your parents were like kind of from different backgrounds themselves?
Yes, massively. You're right. It's quite different. We had a big immigration of Japanese more than 100 years ago in Brazil. So we have a huge community of Japanese in Brazil. Actually, it's the largest community outside Japan. It's in Brazil.
Amazing.
So it's very common. We have Brazilians with Japanese roots, came from Japan at the age of 7 years old. So that time, with big ships taking more than 1 month to arrive in Brazil. So my mom was born in Brazil.
Okay.
And she was the only one who got married to a Brazilian. So she's the black sheep of the family. And my dad only got into the family because my mom, grandma, loved dancing. And my dad one day asked her grandma to dance, and he was kind of accepted in the family.
Oh, wow. Amazing. And like, if you talk about culturally, food, for example, or music, Japanese side of the family, did they kind of blend into Brazilian more culture, music, food, or was it still sort of very authentic Japanese food, or was it like a, fusion?
Yes, I would say fusion. Mm-hmm. Although myself, I kind of somehow I denied the culture. It's funny because I didn't like to be called exotic. Especially when I was a teenager, this was the most common name I
for
used
you.
to hear you were so exotic, and for me that was horrible to hear. You know, when you're a teenager, you want to look,
You want to blend in.
Yes, exactly. You want to be part, look alike everyone else. So I kind of denied, and it's funny. And when my grandmother was not very healthy anymore, I felt like I felt closer to her. So cooking with her and then learning a little bit. So then it was the time when I got to love Japanese food.
Wow.
And this was something we would eat always at home.
That's so interesting. I was just wondering, like I think also socially, and this is my assumption, so maybe I'm wrong. I feel like Asian people are more like reserved and sort of quieter. And then I feel like Brazilians are more like extroverts and very out there. Was that something that you noticed within the family as well?
Totally. My dad is... My son told me the other day, Mom, you are so much like Grandpa because I'm quite chatty, and my mom is quite reserved. Yes, she doesn't talk much. And the other day she complained. She said, "I don't talk much because your dad talks on my behalf.
He takes the whole time."
So my dad is totally Brazilian, and my mom is very much Japanese, reserved, not demonstrating much her emotions. Emotions in terms of sadness. She would, really be very warm. She's very warm. So she got a lot of Brazilian style, let's say, in terms of physical contact, hugging, she did all this, but with emotions, with problems, she would
doesn't want to share with others.
The warrior, like the samurai, hiding everything and trying to figure out her own problems and challenges in life by herself.
I think it's a lot of people actually as well. They don't want to, they think they're bothering if it's something bad, but actually it's one of those vulnerabilities that's so good. And then I wanted to ask, how is it with your kids? We will get to the point how you left Brazil, but I'm just wondering how the culture, are you passing the culture to your kids? Is there a very conscious decisions to pass Brazilian or Japanese, or has it all sort of blended in with global culture?
I think they are very much Brazilians, both. I have two boys. I wish they were more Japanese sometimes, especially at school, studying more. But yes, they are very much Brazilians. And sometimes I laugh because, I can watch my 10-year-old hugging his friends when he's going through the gate. He's the only one hugging. He hugs two in each side, one each side. He's very
affectionate.
Yes, right? Affectionate, I would say.
And you speak Portuguese at home as well. What about food? What about other aspects of culture? Do you is that something that you kind of obviously not push on them, but just sort of pass on them just because you're doing it, eating?
Yes, Brazilian food, yes, pretty much like every day, but they are both crazy about Japanese food.
Really?
Yes.
Are they excited about that part that they are also 1/8 of Japanese?
They are. Yeah, totally.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's put culture on a side for a little bit. And I just want to know, at what point did you decide to leave Brazil? What was the decision? At what point? Was it after school? Did you know where you want to go? And just how that first change in your path happened? Yes.
Well, first I lived in France. After university, I was already working. I always had that wish to have an experience abroad, and I always aimed for Europe. And I was looking for a place where I could speak the language. I didn't know French at the time, but I fell in love to a Brazilian who was living in France, in Annecy. So So
he was living already there.
Yes.
Okay.
So I went to France because I was trying to. I was applying to a job in my company but in England. So I said, at least we're gonna be a little bit closer. But that place was so amazing, and I decided to stay to do a course. I always loved the French language. And so it's so easy. It's quite similar for us.
Amazing.
Portuguese and French. So I stayed there for almost 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Once I was back to Brazil, I didn't feel I would fit in anymore. I just felt...
You just had that sense of world that you managed to capture probably when you were traveling, right?
Yes.
And you go back and it just seems smaller, right?
Exactly,
I don't know. That's for me.
Yes, totally. It feels like you love your family, of course, and your friends, but it feels like nothing changed and you changed so much.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's that sensation you cannot fit in anymore.
Yeah.
That is nice for holidays, basically.
I think it's such a common story of people who are like, I want to just have that abroad experience, just to live and work abroad for a year or two and then go back. And in that year or two, it's so often that the person changes so much that it's just difficult to go back to what it was before.
Yes.
That's part of my story. But okay, so you went to Paris. You went to France.
To France.
And then after 3 years, at what point did yoga come in? Was it that time or was it later?
Before going to France, actually, I started yoga as a practitioner at the age of 20, more or less, but on and off. And once I went back to Brazil, well, again, my heart brought me abroad, and here I am, 14 years.
14 years. Wow.
So once I came to actually, I met my first husband, who was living here in a yoga festival. Yes.
Wow.
He was practicing yoga. So
and you were then practicing as well, or
yes,
you were
I was
a teacher?
Totally beginner. I was actually the black sheep, like doing everything you wouldn't expect. In terms of food, of habits in general, I was not very much aware, I would say.
Rock and roll.
Yes.
Chapter in your life.
Yes, I would say electronic style, partying a lot. And but I loved yoga. So we met in this festival. Then I fell in love again, and he proposed me. And after 4 months, it was super quick.
Wow.
I decided to come. I enjoyed the experience, but I never thought about the Middle East ever in my life. First, because it's too far. It's too different from Brazil. Although we do have lots of huge Arab communities in São Paulo, where I come from as well. Yes.
Wow. Interesting.
So I came, and here I am. And I remember myself, when people would tell me I've been here in Dubai for 7-10 years, I would say, oh my God, this is crazy. And I'm turning 15 this year.
It just goes so quickly. It feels like and it kind of, this place also creates this very comfortable way of being, I feel like, which in other countries, oftentimes, maybe they're a little bit behind. I don't know if you noticed that as well here, like all the services and just the warm weather and all that as well, right? And also Dubai is one of those places that has one of the biggest expat community, not just specific one nationality, but different nationalities. And so everyone can kind of get the bond on just being away from home, right?
Yes, I think this is what I love the most. Here is diversity. I love the diversity, and I love the fact that my children can grow up in this environment.
It feels like it's like a world just in a small one place, I was saying the same thing. It's one of my best kind of things here is just having really every nationality around, and you kind of they're different, but equally everyone's sort of the same at the end, right? And then you kind of have these assumptions of different cultures sometimes. And then you see these people and you realize they're very much the same in many ways, right?
And I think that this is what, as you said, bonds us, because in the end, we're all, many of us, expats, and we become a big family, you know. So it's like my yoga students, like you, we become friends, and we kind of hold into each other, and we can count with these
I think it's
people.
I think it's also a connection on the same theme that or same interest kind of connects us all, or same values, maybe I would even say, where we all are thinking about our inner and outer self and how to make ourselves feel better. Okay, tell me about swastika yoga. Because there's different kinds of yogas. How did you get in swastika? And can you tell me a little bit more of this particular yoga?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. Well, I was here with my eldest son. He was born in Brazil, but since the beginning, he grew up here, like in Dubai, and I was trying to find a passion. So that's how I came into teach yoga. So to have an approach to yoga in a professional way. And swastika was the school that back home in Brazil, which was developed in Brazil, that I knew, and I could relate more, I believe, with
so the philosophy.
With the philosophy, yes, exactly, with the philosophy. And so I really liked to practice swastika, but I was certified in Hatha yoga here in the UAE, here in Dubai. Yes, Hatha. But my style, what I teach is what I love the most, which is swastika. And it's so the asanas, so a complete class involves many parts. So breathing, what we call pranayamas, we do the pujas, it's like an exchange of energy. We do some mantras, right? And then asanas is 1/8 of the class. So everybody focus a lot into
1/8.
1/8.
Wow.
If you think it's the major part of the class, but it's 1/8. And when we think about yoga, I think most of the people have the misconception about the asanas, especially if they are those fancy ones that are very much like Instagram pictures, which are beautiful, very aesthetics. But this is one part, 1/8 of a practice. The aim is actually it's a practical philosophy, yoga, right? And the aim is that we can reduce the intermittence of our mind to go to a highest consciousness. What we call samyama, right? So when we elevate, when we are able to go to this highest conscious level, and we can say meditate, we can say some cultures could say nirvana, to reach the nirvana, right? But to go there and to sit, to be able to sit in a comfortable position, you need the asanas, you need the physical part to prepare your body to be seated as we are here, right? Trying not to move too much. Maybe the spine might bother, or the hips, or this. And when you are concentrating, you have to remain still. The less you move, the more energy you are bringing to your head, actually, right?
You know, that's one thing that I also noticed, that I think I started yoga with just wanting to stretch more, just feel better in my body after pregnancy. And what I didn't know and what I felt like was the whole practice managed to lower my thoughts, or not thoughts, or tone down my thoughts and focus on presence, on my body. And obviously at the beginning it's difficult to do the breathing but also the intentions that we usually at the beginning kind of put the intention, like how our minds are calming down during yoga, and why?
This actually is the combination, is a great question. And I'm glad to hear that. It means that you are not only doing exercise, right? We practice outdoors in the park. We are lucky. We have a beautiful environment, our yoga group. But actually, it's the combination of all parts that we call angas. So these 8 parts, yes, or the 7 parts. So that on the 8th part, which is the concentration techniques, you are able to be there. So every part, you are actually accumulating energy for the next. So when you are towards the end, so this is the favorite of everyone, what we call this savasana, right? When you rest, we call it yoga nidra. So it's the relaxation techniques, so you can relax. And so many people whose minds are so busy, they are not able to relax. They are not able even to remain with eyes closed.
I was, sorry to interrupt you. I was thinking about it because sometimes, people are talking about manifestation and setting intentions. And I almost feel like you need to get your mind in the right space to even be able to start really manifest something. Because I think sometimes when I'm busy and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try to think what I want. And the body, the mind is going so fast. It can't just slowly figure out things that needs to be figured out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then that hour of yoga, it feels like the whole body gets into that right space. And then at the end, you feel like you just see things clearer. Yes. I don't know. That's how I feel every time after it.
And that's why you asked me why swastika, why this technique. It's because this combination and there is an order, right? So we start with the intentions, with the grounding, what we call like in the mudras, which is a gesture we make with the hands, because only in each hand we have 35 chakras. So when we are doing, for example, mantras, we are actually activating those chakras. So every part of the class, there is a reason for that, right? And then the breathing, when you said, okay, I cannot get my mind, is the fluctuations of the mind, right? Yeah. I always say like our mind is like a cheeky monkey.
Absolutely.
Right? So, which is normal, but accepting these facts and trying to pay attention inwards. And then this is where breathing, the breath work plays a big role. The pranayamas, the expansion of the bioenergy. Because if we, for example, when we are in that anxious mode and we tend to breathe only with the chest, a very shallow breath. So our mind becomes hyper,
and so the heart's going really fast. Yeah,
everything changes. So, but even if my mind is a little bit hectic, but I just said, okay, I will try to breathe longer and deeper for 5 minutes. You can change absolutely your day, your mood, your emotions. Right.
How did yoga change you on your life or the view of world for you? Yeah. You were saying before you were a wild lady.
No, not as wild.
Young.
I was.
But how do you, if you have to compare you before and after yoga?
Well, yoga. I like to say for myself, I say saved me in a way that I was found with 2 herniated discs at a very young age, and at that time the surgeries were quite invasive, and I denied to go for surgery, and yoga changed. I like to say that, and that is where Theta Healing comes, like these beliefs. I say I had herniated discs.
So you started doing yoga and you didn't have to do the surgery?
No, I didn't. But I feel like if there is one day in my life that I don't do any 5 minutes of yoga in my day, I feel my back, I feel pain, I feel rusty. And
oh wow. So you did it without any invasive surgeries or anything. That's a pretty mess.
And then it's interesting because there were many things I would never imagine I could do with my body in terms of exerting my body due to the herniated disc. And because of yoga and everything I learned. And for myself, yoga, I'm a very distracted person. And I was expecting you to ask how you define yourself. And I said, and you asked a different question, which I was not prepared, but okay. And I'm a quite distractive personality, let's say, putting it that way. And yoga helped me so much to focus on myself. I can say it's the only moment in the day that it's me and myself. Not in the classes, right? Because I have to pay attention in the others. But when I'm practicing for myself, it's the only moment where, okay, I'm hearing my breath. I can feel my body. I feel how my body moves. And learn now to not to judge myself, because I think we are constantly with these bad negative thoughts, like, oh, I'm old, I'm fat, I'm stiff, I'm rusty, and we are with those thoughts. Yeah. And when I'm practicing, I just feel like I keep like an internal, I could say, mantra in my mind, like saying, oh, this is amazing, how amazing my body works, and how harmonious and balanced and all these things. And this is what I try to implement in the class, not only the physical, and but also what are my thoughts?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think also the slow rhythm of it all, also kind of a compassionate way of doing yoga, I feel like for me, it has been a very similar experience, where I'm just not pushing myself. I'm not telling you, come on, do it. But I'm just sort of seeing what my body can do, and whatever it can do is good enough, And at the end, you just feel good anyways. So, yes. I mean, that's the goal, I guess, right? And at what point, and because every time in yoga, when we talk, our group, we start with something that is happening, and then the conversation goes into what does it mean energetically, maybe, or spirituality, oh, something hurts. I remember, we were doing the cold plunges, and 3 times in a row, when we have to do on that day, I got sick. And the third time I was like, you got to be kidding me. I want to do it. And we were talking that, our bodies are sometimes scared or protecting ourselves. And at what point, and maybe you can talk about Theta Healing a little bit more here as well, at what point did that interest grow this direction as well? So it started from yoga, I assume.
Yes. It's funny because I would be not a very common, I don't even mention too much swastika back home, because I'm not a swastika teacher in the meaning really certified. I'm not. I am certified in Hatha with a background of swastika, and then I combine. And my teacher here in Dubai, he always told me since day one, when I was teaching for the exams, he said, your style is very holistic and spiritual, he said. I said, really? And then I realized that actually, I think for any practice, but yoga more, because it's very energetic, it's the connection between student and teacher, right? Because maybe I am sure there are students, they don't like my style because it doesn't match, it doesn't click, you know, and vice versa as well.
And I've noticed that there are people who need gym. They need something very, dynamic and quick. And some people are like, oh my God, it's so slow. It's like, and I've seen that as well. Some people are like, they're struggling with this calm, slow pace of the practice, Yeah.
And normally those people are the ones who need the most.
Yeah.
So you can see through their personality. So they are the people who cannot calm down.
And they need to figure out themselves that they need it, right?
Exactly. So coming back to Theta Healing. So I started to combine like intuitively, talking more about manifestation. We talk about visualizations a lot in our school, but manifesting and what is blocking. And then I met one of a friend who was working. We were working as partners. She was a Pilates teacher, and whenever we would work together to, take over students if one was traveling, things like that. And she started to talk about Theta Healing, and I really caught my attention. So how you can, basically Theta Healing Theta is a state of, it's like a brain wave. So when you reach that state of mind, which is similar when you are relaxing in yoga, that sensation that you are not sleeping, but you are not fully aware. You are just so relaxed. So that's kind of state of mind allows you to work on your subconscious mind. If you think that our subconscious mind represents 90%, right, of our mind and our decisions, and we either we neglect it, but we are not aware about that. So why do we take decisions that differently than what we think in our conscious mind? So what is guiding us, right? And how to access those layers and layers and layers, and in a positive way, so I can release blocks to manifest fears and live happier. And
how do you get to that state? Is there exercises?
It's a meditation. Yeah. It's through a meditation. So we call it a roadmap. So it's a guided meditation. So the person who is the Theta healer would guide you through this meditation. So you go in that space we work with visualizations a lot. So that's where you can, you feel you are connected.
That's so interesting. That is sort of also like what psychotherapy does as well, with these subconscious beliefs or blocks or negative beliefs about yourself. And it's interesting that there's different approaches that lead to the same sort of direction. Yes. That is, you kind of think, well, I'm not thinking bad about me, or I love myself, or, all these things. But then when you really go deep, you kind of realize that behind that negative self-thought, talk to yourself, there is that belief about yourself, right? It's
totally. You're right. So there are so many practices, so many schools and methods, and in the end, it comes to the same, end goal, and with different techniques. So Theta Healing was developed in the US by a lady called Diana Stibel. And so it works. The core is the belief system. So belief is anything we think a lot becomes a belief, either if it's positive or negative.
Yeah, and usually these beliefs also develop in a childhood, right?
Totally.
Like very far away.
Plays a huge role into children beliefs. many of those, unfortunately, they are negative, and we learn it after. But it's okay. We can still change.
Exactly.
And we can teach them to change in the next generation as well.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that my grandchildren will be much better than my children.
Yeah. But that's like the generation after generation. Yes. Hopefully some blocks are released, but new ones probably developed.
Yes.
I was thinking, like with my children, I was like, well, I'm sort of slightly different when it comes to raising them. But then I was like, well, there's probably new things that were not when I was growing up. Like there's no phones. The screens were not there when I was growing up. So these things are now adding to maybe something that they will later, struggle or try to change with their kids, I wanted to ask you about both yoga and Theta Healing. It's a work with energies. I wonder, does it ever drain you? Or because I think it's one of the very, it's hard work mentally and emotionally, spiritually for someone, especially if you have to do it on regular basis. Do you feel like that takes a part of you, or there's ways how to keep what's yours to you? I think you mentioned that once.
Yes, I did. Yes, great question. No, not at all. Actually, I feel more energized. Yes. With yoga, I really feel energized. There is, it's funny because this was my first husband saying like, sometimes you are grumpy or this, and then you go teaching and you come back a different person. Like, I think you have two personalities. And I used to say, wow, he didn't understand me. So, but actually, the fact with so many people relate yoga to being Zen.
Yeah.
Right. To become Zen. Like Tatiana, maybe my voice is Zen. But actually is to gain energy, accumulate energy. So the aim is to gain energy. And in the class, we exchange so much energy. And the mantras, actually, they are one of the goals is to balance the energy in the group. So if one is asleep, the other is hyper, and so many things. So when we chant the mantras, we kind of balance this energy. So at the end, I really feel it feels like the more it's not it's something we hear a lot, right? But it really feels like the more I give, the more I receive. It's unbelievable. And with Theta Healing, we learn a technique how to protect your energy field. So what is mine is mine, what is yours is yours.
I was just thinking, if you're working with people with their subconscious, thoughts and beliefs, and they might sometimes be sort of negative. I was just wondering if that's harder, when you have to guide someone through, or equally, I guess it's inspiring and knowing that they're walking towards light,
Yeah, but it's so interesting because it happens all the time that people who come to me for Theta Healing, it's working, it's actually something that I need to work on myself. So when I'm doing the sessions, sometimes we can do that, ask to work this on you as well. So you are learning from each other. It's unbelievable. And always when somebody comes to me for Theta Healing, we ask the creator, whatever who is, whatever belief you have. So I had different clients from different religions or philosophies. And we go and ask the creator if this is for your best and highest to support that client, and vice versa. Because sometimes you are not, me as a practitioner, maybe I'm not ready for this person.
An interesting point. You as yoga teacher, and being in Dubai, different nationalities, cultures, religions. So you must have seen a lot of people from different backgrounds. Do you see any, and also on the same question, women and men in yoga, do you see differences between people during practice?
Yes, totally. I would say Nationality, I cannot say that with yoga. With Theta Healing, yes, because of the belief system, the collective unconscious system, which is very rooted according to each culture.
Yeah.
Not necessarily nationality, but the culture. Right? So, but in yoga, men and women, yes, a lot. Men, I must say, I feel like they tend to be, and again, I don't want to create a belief of that, but more disciplined.
Oh.
Because the fact is that we women, and especially being moms, we need to take over everything. And we tend, women, not to put ourselves in first place. It's always everything else and then us, if we have time.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Men do not cancel a class. It's rare.
Really?
It's rare.
So they're very structured. If they
are there, be sure that they take it very seriously. And many of them, if they need to miss, they go online. So I connect online, and sometimes if they have layovers in hotel rooms, they tell me, I took my yoga mat, I did some asanas.
Amazing.
It's impressive.
Wow.
Women know now it's dinner time, or I have this and that and that and that.
That's true.
And then it's something that we also work in Theta Healing, right? Why? It's a belief. I am not worthy
of my own time and space.
Yes,
yeah.
So we work on that. So where does it come from? And we have one technique to dig deeper.
That's good.
Yeah.
And it's probably how you've been raised, how you've seen women,
Totally.
Yeah. I think it's one of those, especially with small kids, it's one of the best things to do, to actually be a good mother, to take time for yourself.
Yes.
But oftentimes your mind goes into the practical things that needs to be done, and you think that can wait a little bit until it goes over, and it's like it's already a urgency to go to yoga.
And so last weekend we organized our first yoga retreat. So I didn't mention I have a brand.
I want to exactly that we are closer to the end, and I wanted to ask you. And you mentioned briefly that you have sort of a new project, and I mentioned at the beginning that you have a brand, Guava, women's clothing, mainly women's, I think, right?
Yeah, mainly women's, and we have some men already stealing the wife's shirts. It's a fabric which is very comfortable in the skin. Yes.
Okay, so tell me about the retreat, and tell me about sort of you're saying that this new thing is gonna combine all the things together.
Yes. So the Guava, we are working, me and my business partner, transforming Guava into a well-being brand, not only clothes and accessories. They are from Brazil, but the concept of comfort. And elegance. This is something I always mention in the class, right? So when you learn how to stand up from the ground without your hands in an elegant way. So, and this is the concept of the clothes as well, feeling comfort, but at the same time, with elegance and style. And the Guava Wellbeing is combining everything. So it's where events where we can teach the Theta Healing and other techniques and workshops in partnership with other practitioners, and also talk about, in general, well-being.
And how did it go? Last retreat was last weekend.
Yes.
That was the first event, right?
Yes.
So how did that go?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was just a 24-hour retreat. So this is the aim, something very quick. And I remember about that. I mentioned the retreat because one of the participants, it's also a student. She has a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. And she was the first one to drop her telephone because the aim we suggested people to disconnect, to reconnect.
Nice.
So there was a box at the entrance, where you could drop your devices and disconnect, and how difficult it is because moms need to be on call 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So we left one note to send to the husband. So this is the emergency contact. You can do it. You don't need her.
That's a good
for
way.
24 hours.
That's amazing.
And this was offered for Valentine's Day by some husbands. So
really,
it's amazing too.
Oh,
yes,
that's so good. Okay, and I guess I have actually two questions. But first question is, I know that we've talked about that yoga is good on specific phase, obviously throughout your life, but in specific phases, after childbirth, menopause. And these are the moments when women feel the most fragile. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how yoga can help in these states of body and mind when there's a huge change happening.
Yes. Hormones, right? So yoga works a lot with the endocrinologic system. So work and balance. So things actually I've been reading, and there are many researchers now relating teenagerhood, obesity, with how yoga can be beneficial for that.
Nice.
And of course, with the increase of the social media and the devices and the anxiety problems and ADHD, all these things, how yoga can help those teenagers. So I would say since teenagerhood, or even children, right? It's so good for children to get to know their body.
And mindfulness, right?
Yes, and breathe. I remember my youngest Thomas learning to breathe when he was 2 years old at the nursery.
Amazing.
So I would say since the early stages, right? And I teach prenatal. I became a yoga teacher because of my hernia, but also on a good thing that happened was I loved my experience when I was expecting my eldest Oliver, and I did yoga. It was so amazing how I really felt connected to the baby. I really could get that moment that, okay, I'm pregnant, I am expecting a life. Because normally pregnant ladies, they are all over the place. They cannot sleep well. And I remember my friends saying, it's horrible. How did you say it's beautiful? It's horrible. I want my sleep back. I want my body back and all these things. And that caught so much my attention. Why I had a different experience and a natural birth, a natural delivery, no painkillers, everything natural, which is very rare in Brazil. Very rare. We are very
in Dubai as well.
C-section country.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, I think the second after the US. So all these things and my experience, I just said, I wish other women could have the same experience through pregnancy and birth, the same I had. So prenatal, postnatal with the baby. We always also teach with the baby.
And it is after giving birth, a lack of sleep, a lot of time, looking after and being the nourishing mom. There is something that in the back of your head, you're like kind of missing your own self. And I feel like yoga was doing that for me perfectly. Like, truly. And then another topic that we're talking, because we're different age groups in the class, is menopause. That I was surprised to hear, but there were ladies who were also saying that during the menopause, yoga really helped them to kind of get centered and feel better.
Totally. Perimenopause, menopause. Yeah, there are many asanas that work with the thyroids, right? So we can definitely help to reduce the symptoms of menopause immensely. Sleep, the anxiety, right? The forgetfulness, and all these things that through yoga we can definitely support a lot.
Wow. Yes. Well, I mean, let's end on this note. And last, maybe question is, do you feel like that this direction that you're going is your path, and is it fulfilling, or do you think there might be a few more directions in the future that you might go?
I definitely, I feel, and I know this is my path, and I'm very happy. But yes, I want to expand. I really want to expand, and yes, do possibly need some support, to expand, to tell at least the community, the neighborhood, the more and more people, to know that it's possible to, to find the space and the place to look inwards. So you feel like you're not in that automatic mode, just doing.
Yeah.
And definitely, I want to expand that and to more people.
Yes, for everyone who's watching, please follow Tatiana on Instagram if you want to learn more about the retreats, about Swastika Yoga, Theta Healing, or the fashion brand Guava. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you, Paula.